Welcome everyone to another one of our Learn Fast webinars brought to you by AIM. We do these once a month right now, although we're talking about maybe bumping them up a little bit more often, maybe every other week. We'll have to see with the amount of questions and comments and things we've got that we'd like to cover. We may step up to two a month, but we'll have to see. But as of right now, last Tuesday of every month, welcome to everyone that's here. We've got a good number of folks that are here live. If you are watching this later on YouTube, anything we talk about, any links, anything that we talk about sharing with the folks will be in the YouTube description box and be available for you to link or look at that point as well. So what we're going to talk about today is Ray Studio 3 analysis, user interface top tips. And these are all based on, it's about 20 of them that we're going to talk about, and they're based on the things I get questions about. I asked several people things that they either have some concerns about, not quite understanding, or things that they get a lot of questions about. So I'm trying not to hit necessarily what we think is the neatest, newest thing, but things that are maybe misunderstood or not used very often that are powerful inside of Ray Studio 3. So some of you use Ray Studio 3 quite a bit already. It is my hope, it is my belief that we're probably, even if you're a heavy user, we're going to show you, hopefully there's 3 or 4 of these that you may not have used before, and you'll get something out of this as well. But it's mainly for the folks that are kind of learning, and medium users, and even the advanced users as well. So keep an eye. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them into the question and answer box, and we will jump in, and we will see what we can find out. Today I'm doing this one solo. I often have a co-host, but I am Roger Caddell, the National Training Manager for AIM Sports. Background of motorsports, ever since high school, and doing some racing myself for about 20 years. Did a little bit of off-road, and then the upper right, the Volkswagen Rabbit, what we call a Rabbit here in the States, was a car I drove as like a mini stock for a number of years. The car owner just recently passed away, Ron Hart, right there, good friend for many, many, many years. That's a little bit of a side shot of me standing next to the car there. And then my son started racing in SCCA and in Spec Miata, and that was a family-owned Spec Miata down there in the lower left. And then I've been working with AIM and doing webinars and training and support for a long time, even before I went to work for them full time, and now I've been doing it for about 12 years. So there's a little bit of a background on me, and just great to be here. Love these webinars, chatting and talking and meeting, and we have a good time here. So looking forward to that. So what I want to do is, without getting too deep into anything else, but is jump right into Ray Studio 3. And let me do this. There we go. Jump right into Ray Studio 3. And one thing I'd like to maybe go over just real briefly, there is updates that happen to Ray Studio 3 quite often. There happened to be a recent update. Make sure that lots of bug fixes is what typically has happened on the latest update. Make sure that you have the most current Ray Studio 3 version. I think you'll find that bugs that you may be fighting, or some new functions as well, maybe in there. So make sure that you jump in there and update the software occasionally. See him, Matt. Okay, let's talk about. I've got a couple of little things that I always keep in my mind when I'm working with data, and one of them is a little phrase I heard a while back, a couple of years ago, and it was, "We live in a world of why." And to me, that's what uh, data analysis is we're always looking for the why. And the faster we can dig in, or the more efficiently we can dig into understanding why something happens, is really what data analysis is all about. Always trying to dig into the why. What happened, where it happened, but the big one is the why. And the one that's and then you answer something, the why, and that may generate another series of questions, or certainly another, okay, why I was faster in that corner by 3 miles an hour. Then your next question should be, well, why was that? Well, it was because I entered, this way, or got on the throttle a little bit earlier. Well, why were you able to do that? And that's, to me, there is all sorts of button pushing things we can talk about, but what you really want to do is always have in your mindset, why, keep digging in and keep asking yourself, well, why am I seeing that? And that whole mindset will help such a huge amount on data analysis and understanding what you want to try to do. So keep that in mind. I just think that that is, if we do that, you'll end up being, your analysis will go much more smooth. So a couple of things. We've got about 20 things we're going to cover today, and they're going to be come at you fairly quickly. There are going to be lots of things that you may want to dig in a little bit deeper on, but we have other videos and other training that we've done that covers some specifics. So I'm going to fight myself a little bit to not get into a subject and want to dig in deeper and answer some things. But if those of you that are watching here live or watching this later on YouTube, if you see something I talk about and I left some of it alone, take a little bit of time and drop me an email note. You'll have a contact information at the end, and ask about that function in, that specific function, and I will be happy to send you a link to a video, or have you on a Zoom, and we can chat about that. But so you may leave feeling a little bit where we touched on something and you wanted to go deeper, but we couldn't. But because what we're really talking about is top tips on little functions. So the first one I want to chat about as we jump in is one that I get a phone call. Somebody will be talking about there's a they can't get something to work real well, or they don't know if their internet is hooked up. They're not seeing the Google Earth imagery in the background, something like that. And the first little tip I'd like to talk about is the little AIM logo up here in the upper right corner. That AIM logo, by the way, one of those kind of cute little things, that is colorized red, the standard AIM color, if you're connecting to the internet. As soon as you disconnect that PC from the internet, that logo is gray. And that's just one of those quick little things that you can look at if you're having some other struggle and you're not sure if your PC's connected. Boy, a quick glance up to the right corner, and boom, that Ray Studio 3 is connected, and you're ready to get to get data from the internet, or background images, or whatever it happens to be. So that's the first little quick one that you may or may not have known. The other thing I think you really ought to do, and this is just good across the board, every once in a while do it. If not, certainly the very first time, if you've never done this, make sure you go do this, is over here underneath the little wrench, the preferences wrench. You got to jump in there and go to the unit preferences. And when you open this dialog box, basically you've got all these units, and it's what the default units that are going to be happening inside of Ray Studio 3. Ray Studio 3 works a little different than Ray Studio 2 did. And if you set all of these units to be, what the unit is, and then what the displayed value to the right of the decimal place is going to be, when you open up and analyze data that may have come in as kilometers per hour, but when you download it, it may have been gathered as kilometers per hour in speed. But if you set things here, when you're viewing it in Ray Studio 3, you will get miles per hour into the single decimal place. So go through these. Yours may look different than mine. Almost certainly will look different than mine, and it's because what is being shown in this list is every unit that you may have that is data is in your database. So there's if you did not have any data that had a steering angle, the steering angle would not be there. So once the data is in there, it says, there is steering somewhere in your database. Boom, you end up with this in here, and you can change the display units and stuff like that. So this will change occasionally. Jump into your unit preferences and take a look and make sure yours are set the way that you like them. When you get done, make sure you click on the OK button to save those changes, and then you are off and running. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is the preview window. There are several things happening here before you ever even open a test that are important, that will save you time, and we should chat about it. This entire window down here, I get phone calls sometimes, and people see screen captures, or they're asking me some questions, and this window's not even there. This bottom half, the preview piece. There's an icon up here in the right that you can see mine here. It's white or clear at the top, and it shows the preview window at the bottom. I'm going to click on that, and what you'll see here is some people have this set as hide preview, and then when I ask them, okay, well, how many laps do you have in that? And there's nothing down here. I'm trying to get them to look at the advanced info button to give me some information, or to attach the data to an email, and they don't have their preview turned on. So this little button up here, you can preview and show it below the database. This is my personal favorite. There is the other way you can do that is show it to the right. So you can have your test here, all your sessions here for the weekend, of course, your main events over here, and then the weekend sessions here. And now everything is over here to the right with the icons where we can get to some of this information. This preview, I'm going to put it, I was thinking about this last night. I think people will either like their preview on the right or their preview, oops, it's over here, the preview down below, probably depending on how they use their email. I was talking with Emiliano the other day, and he was telling me he likes it to the right, and that's what should be the default. And I really, really like it down here below, but then this is the way I view my email, right? So I have my emails on the top and the previews down below. So we were thinking that a lot of people probably will preview this the same way they preview their email. So okay, so make sure that this is turned on. Then you end up with this whole window down here that is really handy. Go through a couple of things here, and then we'll jump back up to the test here in a second. These little additional icons, I'm only going to go over a couple of them just to show you a couple of cool things. But the first one here that I'd like to talk about is this view, and it's that view gives you, before you ever even open the test, you just select one of any test that's in the list, and you get your lap times. You can sort these by the out lap, or you can sort them by the lap times by just clicking on all these different headers. You can sort these in any way that you'd like. One of the areas I use this the most is this right hand side preview of a speed trace, and it's one of those things when you sort this thing down to having just the laps that are at speed, let's say, and then you look at this real quickly. Right there is an area that before I even get into the data, open a data file, I can look at this little area right here and see that there's a lot of what we like to call noise. There's differences between how the driver made it through this corner. So it's speed trace, and this happens to be Lime Rock. And you can see right here that the driver took that particular area at several different speeds. That make a mental note that this is probably something we may want to look at in the data. And we haven't even opened the data file yet. There's another, a couple little spots. A couple things though that you would really do is take away areas that before you even jump in there when you're in a hurry. Boy, the braking zone at this corner here, and the consistency through this corner, and braking for this area are all pretty darn consistent. So little things like that. This little window here does me a lot of good, and I use this one quite a bit. The other area that people do not use very often, and a lot of people don't know it's there, is this little slider bar. I am pushing to have this slider bar added in other areas of Race Studio 3, but right now it's just in the preview window. And you could come through here and uncheck any number of laps that might be outside of within the nearest second of your best lap or something. But this little slider bar comes in here, and it takes your fastest lap, and it shows it over here on the left edge. And you could get rid of one of those by sliding the bar this way, or this is your slowest lap of the ones that are currently selected. And let's say you want to just thin this down, but you could come in here, and if you had 50 laps from a long event, there'd be a lot of searching out, finding, resorting. But by using this little guy, you can just slide this over, and it just starts taking away. Oops, it's not working for me now. That's interesting. You can slide this bar back and forth, and thin out there. I just got rid of the lower one. You can move it around, and begin to thin down the number of laps that you have shown here. So that this little slider bar is a powerful little tool that I suggest you maybe give it a try. The other thing that I end up doing a lot here is two more things. One is this advanced info icon down here. When you come in here, everything about the test is shown here, of the test that we have highlighted. There's two things that I really like here. Number one, you can see whatever your comment was. It's highlighted in yellow if you added a comment. And it's the only thing that down here that is editable at this point here is you could come in and hit the edit button, and you could add a comment right from here. So you don't have to necessarily open up the properties and do all of that. You can get it at this from right at this area, which is very, very nice. That was one thing. The other two other things I like to do from here, and when I'm working with people that are maybe don't know the software well, or don't know, aren't computer people, they're trying to find where is the data. They imported it or downloaded to their PC, and a couple months later they want to share that file with me to answer some questions, and they don't know where that file's at on their computer because it's automated right through the AIM download process. Over here on this right side, there is some pretty cool little icons here. Number one is, let's say underneath the files, there's a arrow here with a box with a red arrow. Copy items to a folder for export. So I've got this test open. I could have multiples, but I've got this test open. And if I click on that button, it says, where would you like to store it? I'm just going to put it on the desktop. I'm going to select the folder, and it popped open on the other screen, but it just made it took that data file and video file, because this was data and video, and it put it into the spot where I told it. So now it took a copy of it and put it into a spot that I told it. So very, very handy for you to be able to just grab those data files if somebody doesn't know how to manipulate their way around or find them. The next one that I'd like to chat about is the one right below it. There's the little Windows Explorer icons here, and those you can click on those, and it shows the file. I have to bring this over from the other screen. It opened up this dialog box when I clicked on that folder, and it comes in there, and the video file, that's the one that I clicked on, it's already highlighted. It may be multiples, but the one that I did was already highlighted and ready to go. So just by clicking on that little folder, this showed up, and somebody could grab that file and drop it into it's a video file here. It's not an emailable file, but drop it onto their Dropbox or something like that. It helps them find that file very, very quick and easily. And the one down below, same thing. There's the data file. I just clicked on it. There's the data file that was matching of the one that I clicked on. So very, very handy. Very, very handy. And you can open file. This is a video file. And another thing that the software folks have added, they said, well, sometimes you have these videos, and in Ray Studio 3, it's a small panel, right? And they go, boy, it would be nice if I could just open up that video in a player that is full screen, of a player of my choice, right? Well, that's what this icon does. If you have a video, you can click on this button right here, and the video from this particular event will open up. Oops, there we go. And it's loud, but it will open up in the player of your choice. I have VLC player as my default media player, and you can just open that guy up and play that video in the normal way. So that little icon right there is very, very handy. So keep that in mind. One last thing in this area here that I'd like to chat about is there's a search box up in here that a lot of people don't know is up there. And it's just like the search box it's that we're going to look at in a couple of other top tips. But this little search box right here will search your entire database for a word that's either in the comments or the the track name, all the normal things that you might want to search for something. If there's something that you want to be able to search for, you search for it right here. It's not only searching the ones that you have active by what you thin down over here, but it searches the full database, yeah, at this level and then down deeper into the levels of test by test. So there's that search box right there is very powerful if you're looking back for something um, that you want to take a look at, that you know happened a few months ago, and you typed in, some suspension settings or something into the comments. Just type in suspension or something like that, and if it was in the comments, all those tests will be filtered out, and they'll be brought up and shown to you. So very, very cool little tip there with the search box. Okay, perfect. So let's talk about this is one that is there's been a few added to this one that some of you may not know about. So I'm just going to select this lower test here, and I'm going to do a right click. I'm going to right click on this test, and there's going to be a sub menu of items. You're going to find right clicks inside of, they started this trend in Race Studio 2 long ago, and it's been carried on to Race Studio 3, and we just keep adding more and more very specific content, specific things to these data boxes when you right click. And a couple of them here I want to go over. That I just right clicked on this one test here, and I just wanted to talk about linking and unlinking data in video. I get a question a lot. Somebody's brought in a data file and a video file, and they typically will link by themselves. They just automatically do, but every once in a while they won't, or you want to break them apart. And there's an item in here. If I had a data in a video file that was taken at the same time, you highlight both of them and you come in here, and this would say link data and video. Since this one's already linked, it says unlink. So I just wanted to talk about that and make sure that everybody understands. Sometimes if that's not working quite correct for you, this is where you go in to link those manually, that if they didn't automatically link. The other one that is a new one that has been asked for several times by folks is this one that I've got highlighted here: open items not considering track. The Race Studio 3 software is built very, very strongly with GPS locations and locations of a facility or a track or a configuration even of a single track. And that has created some fights for some folks that maybe want to, the quick explanation might be they've got data from an engine that they have had built, but they only have data at track A and they have data from track B, and they want to put those on top of each other and stack those and be able to do an acceleration review, or how much RPM was coming at different spots. This little button right here will allow you to open up a track from one a data session from Lime Rock and one from Watkins Glen, align them, put them together, and be able to align up a straightaway and acceleration zone and see what the car was doing. So this has been something that a lot of folks have been wanting for quite some time, and it works fairly well. So the only downside, there's because of the GPS data, you're going to be in time mode for your analysis because it still is very strongly tied to GPS positioning. So the software will go to time mode across the bottom, but it's going to get you your comparisons to do the things that folks really want that for. So there was one that I thought a lot of people might have not seen before, because it's not brand new, but it's a lot of people have not been using that as much. So, okay. The next one I want to go to is the options key. I'm going to open up a test, and then I want to talk about options. So many different ways to open up a session, but This is the data that we're going to just glance at, and I've set up some different tabs and some different ways of doing things. But the next one I want to talk about is options. The options button is over here underneath this little cogged wheel, and options. Please, everybody, when you get ready to start working back in Ray Studio 3 again, open up this guy with your with especially with the new version. There is a couple of things here that have changed that have makes Ray Studio 3 way easier to use, in my opinion. They've changed the layout of this option screen. You may or may not have seen this, the new look, but the the number one is the options, and this used to be at the bottom of this slide and you couldn't see it. So number of allowed reference laps. This is the biggest top tip I wanted to talk about on this one. Well, two, but this was number one, is by default, I think it sets at two when you first load the software. And what this a number of allowed reference laps is when you're opening up multiple laps, or you've got a team of drivers and you got four cars that you've downloaded and you want to look at, a certain corner on everybody, you're really only going to get two channel tags because this is set at two. You're going to get two channel tags and only two videos. All the data is going to be there and you can turn them off and on, and we're going to look at that in a minute. But you have to then select the two that you want to be the most visible and have tags and videos showing. That is really a function of Ray Studio 3 can open up 50 tests at one time, and some computers might start to bark if they allowed everything to be turned on. So they limited it to the heavy details, to only a certain number of laps, and the minimum is two, and I think the default, and you can go as high as eight. We may increase that someday, but eight is, for most people, that's more than enough. I leave mine at four, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute when we actually start looking deeper in. The Yeah, somebody says reference laps move to the top. The worst part, on almost every screen that I went to, when you open up this option box, there was a scroll bar and it did not show. So a lot of people would open it up looking for it and couldn't find it because they didn't understand to scroll down that one more inch. So being up here, I think, will be very helpful for folks. This is where you select either light or dark as far as an overall color scheme is here now. And then the other one down here is colors for individual items. In beta, I do have mine set up a little bit different. I like my cursor maybe not to be black because it kind of ties in with some other lines that are there. So I make that bright red, and you can do that just as easy as coming in, and instead of black, you can change that to red, and OK, and OK. And now your cursor, oops, save profile. That's another new little function. If you've changed something, and especially in the options, it asks you to please save your profile. Now you've got a red cursor. That to me is very, very handy. So it's the red just seems to catch my eye better. I've always done that in Ray Studio 2 as well. So that is the area that you do that in. Let's bring that options back open. So you can change individual things. You can change these background colors from gray and light to the color of the corner. Blue and red and green can have just a slight hint of that in the background. All sorts of cool things you can do there. So keep that in mind. And this is a new one. This one is something that to me has been just a huge change for me, that has made this much easier to look at cars of multiple laps or multiple cars and understand what you're looking for. This is called session naming. It's under the options, and this is will turn on. Looking ahead here, you'll see it says Tom-Q1, and when we have we'll have qualifying one, qualifying two, and the race data. Let's say you have three sessions open. This is giving us a really good idea of which session is which, and it's in all the reports. It's on the headings. And I've told it racer's name and test type by checking these little boxes. And we could just as easily, if I select test type and then drag it up, it would be, and if I clicked OK here, it would then say Q1-Tom. We could put in the vehicle, we could put in the date and the time. We could, but I find test type and the racer's name is what works for me, because then I can real quickly understand which lap was in qualifying, which lap was in practice, and which lap was in the race, and understand my data analysis a lot better. This is this is very powerful. Okay, I'm going to cancel out of that because we're going to leave these sessions namings where they're at. So play with this options uh, function here, and you think you're going to find that this is pretty handy. Okay, okay. Uh, Session names, automated naming of sessions for analysis and report. The is what we just did. If I were to go over to my split times report, you're going to notice that and I've only got one session open right now, but it says right at the top now. If I had multiple split reports, multiple sessions, and there was multiple split reports, right here is telling me that the data here is from the session from Tom that was his first qualifying session. If I had another one open, it would say Tom Q2. Just much easier to understand the data and understand, not get confused over which session. So that pretty powerful that way. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and load a second test just so you get an idea of what that looks like. So let's jump back to the time distance. Let's jump back over to here and let's add Q2. I'm just going to double click on it. We've added that second session now. And the reason this makes it so much easier for me, bad memory, or whatever, but I can now look at this guy, and I know my red lap is from Tom from Q2, and the blue lap is from Q1, and it makes it much easier for me to keep track of things. And if I run into the split times report, there's my Q1 split report, there's my Q2 split report. Just little things like that have made this much easier. And there is some reporting functions that you're going to see added to AIM in the very near future, into Race Studio 3 in the very near future, that will include these same naming structures to make the reports much more clear. So start to use that function quite a bit, and I think you're gonna see that build into some newer stuff in the near future. So let's talk a little bit about these bars over here. I'm going to call this the session loaded area. There's just some little things here that that a lot of people don't quite understand fully, and so I wanted to chat about those. Number one, the red X's. The red X's allow you to, let's say we had a couple of laps open on each one. You can now come in here, and the little red X is an easy way to close and open, close laps that you happen to have open. Those little red X's can close not only laps, but entire sessions. It's a very quick and easy way to close a second session. So keep that in mind, that those red X's are available to you. The other thing that sometimes you're working in a session and you want to a little bit get back to that same advanced information that we talked about when we were looking at the little green eye at the preview window. It is also available here. So if I were to click on that, a dialog box comes up and it gives me all that information, including, like we already discussed, ways of sharing sharing those video files or data files. Check the comments, look at what the firmware version was, any number of things. So that little green eye information icon is there, and it's usable. So keep that in mind. This icon here gets some folks. They look at that the little movie clicker, and they think that maybe that will open up the video, but what that really is telling you is that there's a data file here and there is video attached to it. So if I, like this screen here, I do not have a video panel open. So if I went to one of these that I do, there's the four videos, the two laps of each one. There's video there, which, so clearly I had video. But if you were on another one, that's just telling you there is a video that has been attached to that data file. Both of these have that. So that's what that little icon there is, and it's pretty handy to make sure you understand that that is there. Again, that these names, very powerful to me, makes it easy. The next little area I want to talk about is these little eyes. People don't understand everything that these do, but the we have a reference, our time compare bar, and one of these is the reference lap, right? And in years past, Race Studio 2 specifically, the fastest lap was always the flat line down here in the time compare bar. Now it's the red colorized uh, icon here. It is the one that is the reference lap. So that yellow one right now is got this little red eye. You can see the yellow. Bad choice of colors, I know, but the is the flat line. So if I wanted a different one, say this red one, which was the best lap of Q2, if I just click on that guy, now the red line is the flat line. It is the reference lap, and everything is being adjusted against it. So that is another way of what those little eyes do. Just we're going to go over a little bit, one more thing on those little eyes here in just a moment. The other things that are in this box that I think have been added fairly recently is you've got your lap time and your lap number. And if it was the best one, it says best. That's been there for a while, but it's been cleaned up, and and we moved it a little bit. That is very, very handy to have there. The next thing that is there is the these little values right here. That value on certain lap times at certain times of day, you may think that that is the actual lap time, but if you look at that closely, that's actually the clock, the local clock time of when that lap was run and where the cursor's at right now to the nearest second. So there's this one was at 2:21:08. This is 2:22:02 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in this particular case because of the location. And this one was at 2:34 and 2:38, and it's not to the exact time, but it's to the nearest second. Gives you an idea of when those laps were run, and so that's kind of handy. And we'll talk more about these times here that are showing down here, but these are times inside of the segment, and we'll talk a little bit more about what those are running across in another little piece here. So that's some more additional information that's sitting in there that a lot of people don't know is there. That's pretty handy. Okay. Okay. If you have more than 4 laps, remember I set my options to have 4 laps. Let's add one more lap just for fun. All of a sudden, and if you have your set to 2, this is happening to you, and you may have seen it or didn't understand why, but I have 5 laps open, but I'm only getting 4 channel tags. I'm only getting 4 videos because it's set to not overwhelm the PC with data if you were to open a bunch of laps. But you notice one of the eyes is sleeping. The eye is closed. We're visually not seeing that lap over here, although the data is there, and we could see what that data actually is. But if we want that one on, you just have to click it, and and then closes another one, and make it the reference lap. Goof around with it, and you can show the laps that you want to see. So that is one way, a workaround, if you don't want to have 8 set as the number and those always going on there. You can have a bunch of laps open and only seeing the ones that you want as far as the channel tags. So that's pretty powerful. Down here a little bit lower, another search box. And this search box is the one that I think a lot of people use. And there's a couple things I'd just like to chat about that makes it even more powerful than what you might think. It is searching the entire list of channel things, right? So if we put in, break, if we type in break, everything that has the word break in it as a channel is going to show up down here. It makes it much easier to find. Nowadays, we're getting data files that have just so many channels in them that you need a way to be able to search. I used to do it with sorting. We're going to talk about that next. I used to do it with sorting, but put the ones I use the most on top. But the search box has become my biggest tool. So use that search box. The other thing that I want to show you is it's not just searching for channel names, but also the units. So if we knew that we had a channel that we don't remember the name, but it was in percentages. So if we put the percentage icon, everything that had a percentage it will show up, and you can search that way. And maybe it's PSI, right? Everything that had PSI either in the channel name or in the units is very good. So this search bar use it and find value of jumping in and finding your channels again with ECUs and all the and PDMs and all the stuff that we have nowadays where we're getting more and more channels of data. This is becoming a very, very powerful tool. Make sure you use that in days gone by. When if we had 10 or 15 channels, maybe we didn't use the search bar as much, but it's an important thing at this point. The other one that I did mention that I was going to talk about is this configuration button. A lot of people don't know that it is there and that what's available to you there. But underneath the configuration, you can sort this channels box by the configuration, alphabetically, by the channel type, or custom sort. We've covered all of these in previous webinars, so I'm not going to go deeply into these, but just reminding you that this configuration, especially the custom sort, it will allow you to come in and put these channels where you want them. If you go alphabetically, now they just started in alphabetical order, and if you by channel type, it'll be the ones from the loggers, and there's ones from the GPS and calculated channels all grouped in that way. So there's some pretty cool ways of doing that to get maybe those channels in an order that works better for you. So that I think that's a pretty interesting thing. Okay, so I'm going to close one of these tests, make this a little bit easier. Let's close down to just a single lap here to make it a little bit easier. The next thing I want to talk about, and one of the things that a lot of people do when they very first download their data, is we always talk about it here, is the data analysis triangle. There's three things you're really searching for. You want to improve the driver, you want to improve the car performance, and the third one is the vehicle health. Some people will put vehicle health as the number one, because if the car isn't running and isn't on the track, the other two are not able to be analyzed either, right? So a lot of people want to get in there and check the health of things right after they get done. And one of the ways that we do that is we build some tabs. Maybe I've got one here called vehicle health. And basically you go through and build a tab that, and we'll talk more about building a custom tab here in just a moment, but here's a tab where I put in all of the channels of data that are related to the health of the vehicle. You can see some of them here, just the voltage of the battery, water pressure, fuel pressure, oil pressure, all the different things, whatever channels you have that helps you understand, is the vehicle healthy. Now, the way the Race Studio 3 works is you jump in and it's lap based. So it tends to open up your best lap first and show you that. But what folks really want to do is some people that love to look at these things with the squiggly lines want to see the entire session, and instead of just one lap, right? And so uh, here's a quick shortcut that I've had 3 or 4 people tell me, Roger, you've saved me hours of data analysis over the course of a year by understanding how to zoom out with this window out to the entire extent of the entire session real quickly. You can sit here and you can scroll your wheel out and out and out and begin to see, or hit the down arrow and begin to zoom out and see the entire run. But if I come back in here, there's a really quick series of button pushes. And so what you need to do is you come up here and in the snap mode, turn the snap mode off. We have several other videos talking about exactly the snap mode, how it snaps to a single lap. But if you turn the snap mode off, so now the data is not bound by start finish line laps, right? We're not thinking of it as data of lap based data, but rather just wide open. And then the very next button to the left is a zoom out, right? Zoom all. And if you click on that, what you've just done by pushing the snap button and then the zoom out button is you've taken your data, and this entire data file now from the moment it started gathering data is now along the left edge, and over along the right hand edge is the when it stopped gathering data. And that is very helpful. Now you can look at your water pressures and your fuel pressures visually, look across and get a really good idea. I also, as part of that particular same test, is you come in here and you turn on these channel tags, and you turn on these channel tags to show the min, max, and average values. And the way that you do that, a quick tool top tip here is you right click and go to the settings for the time distance bar, and you've got a couple of things here, a whole any number of things that you might want to set, but one of those is do you want to highlight the min max value placements for a channel? And that's what we're calling these min max visuals, is what we used to call them. Right now on this particular panel saved in my user profile, I've got it set to always show them. I tend to, and other screens we're going to look at here quickly, I have them on highlighted, and I only show those triangles when I click on the channel name. But for this particular screen, because of what we're doing, I've got it set to always. So now I can come through and really quickly, two things. Number one, let's use RPM as the example. RPM, my highest RPM was 8291. And my lowest RPM was where it started, was 194, and the average RPM for the run. I'm going to zoom in just a tick here. I'm going to zoom in one just to get rid of the start. And so now your RPM, the high was 82, the low was 31, and the average was 51. Also being added in there is these red lines for the high. That is exactly where the high happened. You can click on this and your cursor jumps to the high. You can click on this one and the data jumps to the low, right? So there's and of course the average, you can't jump to that. So these little lines here are drawn at the low and the high, green for the low, red for the high. Very, very quick and easy to scan your data and say, yeah, my oil pressure was really good the entire time. There was never a real low point. The lowest was 40.6. We're good. High, the average, okay, all good. This is a very, very quick tool. And in order to jump back, to go back to the full lap, you can turn the snap off. You can any number of ways, but this laps button, which we're going to talk about in some detail in a minute, and then select best lap, and it just selects back, and you're back up and running real quickly. And now you're seeing that same exact data, but only for a single lap. So this combination of turning snap off and zooming out to the full extents, very, very powerful. The other thing that a lot of people want to see is a tab built for vehicle health in a channel report. So this is squiggly lines, real quick and to be able to do it. Other folks like to have a channel report set up that does the exact same thing. So, and then they can just get the values real quickly here. So set your channel report up that way if you wish as well. So that's a couple things of the searching for and zooming out to that full extents that is very, very handy. Okay. The laps button, I started to talk about it. There is something new in here that I think a lot of folks that have even been using this button will find that is interesting. This button came along. We used to find our best lap or come over to the laps icon and find your best lap. With this new laps button up here, new with Race Studio 3, you can select your best lap here. You can select your best three for when you're trying to understand and quickly look at some comparison data, which is kind of cool. But and I think a lot of people know about that. The best lap, the best three, the best five. Pretty typical, or all laps if you wanted to put everything on top of each other and look for your vehicle health that way. But is not been used a lot is these laps of best split. So I've got this set up right now to the 3 best lap times. And if I go to this laps tab, you can see that the 3 best lap times have been selected. But if I come in here and I'm really worried, I really want to concentrate on this big bend, corner, and find the best runs through there. The best run through there may or may not have happened on the best lap, right? So one of the cool things is you come in here and you go, I want to see the best 3. I want to select the best 3 laps, the best 3 splits. I want to select those laps that house the best 3 splits. A sub menu comes up and says on what corner. This is based on me naming the corner. If it was numbers, it would just show a number here. Corner of Big Bend. As soon as I do that, you'll notice that it changed the 3 laps, including um, uh, not the best lap did happen to be one of the best, but the other 2 laps are slower than some of the other ones. So this just selected the 3 laps that has a specific corner, a specific straightaway in it that was the fastest that I want to study. So now I could come in here and study Big Bend and get an idea of what did the driver do differently through that corner, and what worked and what did not. Very, very powerful tool. The How do I actually get in and zoom in to see that? Pardon me. Another top tip is if I want to zoom in, we can use all sorts of tools over here, but the best one that some people don't know yet is by clicking on the icon, the split will zoom you into that area. And now you can come along down here. If the same thing happens down in the track map, if I click on the zoom in here, it zooms in on that split. And now I can work this back and forth. I can look at the time loss, time gain, understand. I could have my, on the throttle, off the throttle, brake pressures, what they're doing with their feet. We could zoom in and get an idea of where their driving line is. All of that's kind of cool, and it's all based around the fastest 3 laps in that specific split. So that's a very, very powerful tool that I don't think a lot of people know that much about. I'm going to zoom back out and talk about one more thing that's very, very interesting. Is when you're in the laps tab, there is a series of numbers over here on the right side. And a lot of people don't understand that those numbers, wherever I have the cursor, this is the split time for each of those laps, with green being the fastest, red being the slowest. Okay. 41 being the out lap, obviously, right? So if I just move my cursor over here to the left-hander, watch what happens to those numbers as I jump into this segment. Those numbers were just updated, and you're now seeing the segment times for this segment. And very, very powerful, very, very cool way of being able to look at all of your splits and say, okay, well, geez, that, what did I do wrong here, right? You might be able to make that an active lap versus your best, and you can just turn those 2 off and bring that one up. And now you're looking at in this segment here, and you can start to understand, ask that question of why, and start jumping in and understanding what happened there. So those times there, they match by color. The right-hander, and you can see the map is keeping up down here below. There's that one. There's the back straightaway, the uphill, and so forth. And these just continue to update and keep track of those. Very, very powerful tool that I don't think a lot of people know fully about. So very, very cool deal. That laps button, being able to select laps of the best split, and it begins to make your naming of your maps, either with the corner number or whatever you want to call them, is beginning to mean something. In the past, it didn't always mean a ton, right? Yeah, you called it something, but it wasn't the end of the world. Now, if you're naming them with the track names or the track numbers or something that makes some sense to you, now you can start to do some analysis, and more to come on some reporting features that are coming soon that now means something. And you also see that they're labeled by corner and by straight. Race Studio 3 is doing that based on you colorizing these correctly. In the past, we have always, it's been pretty clear that the colors were just a color change, right? And we all got into the habit of red and blue were corners, and green was the straightaway, we just use the red and blue as alternating colors for corners. Now that red and blue is triggering these reporting and some of these little tools we have that are happening. It's triggering straights and corners as part of some analysis that's happening internally, some reporting that'll happening soon, and you're seeing the first part of it here. So when you're naming and colorizing your track map segments, make sure that you do those with the proper coloring. You're going to find that that's going to work good for you. Okay. Perfect. I've got that one. Zoom selection tool. A tool that is, I'm going to turn down, go back to just a single lap just to make this a little bit easier to see. A question that I get a lot of, got it probably 4 or 5 times in the last couple of weeks. People wanted to zoom in. They kind of knew about the double click on a segment to see that segment and double click to go back out. But what they really wanted was this whole little segment, and they can zoom in with the mouse or the keypad, but they wanted to have a little bit more control over that, and they didn't understand this little icon right up here, which is a zoom tool that when you turn it on, you'll notice that your cursor turns into a little um, magnifying glass, and you can drag that. You can click and drag, and when you do that and let go, you have zoomed into that area. And that is very, very handy for zooming and grabbing areas that you might want. And then the buttons, the min max visuals, I just clicked on that. Remember, you could have them either on all the time or only when selected. I just click that. Those values are of the area that you're zoomed in on. And what some people like to do is maybe you've got uh, uh, um, let's come up here to braking, let's say, and you've got some braking that you've done, right? And you want to understand about how much average braking you've done. You can come in and you can zoom into just the braking zone, and then if you hit the brake pressure, you know what your max was in this viewed area, you know what the min was, and you knew your average braking going into this corner. Some people do that for lateral G's in long corners, things like that. It's doing some averaging and giving you some more analysis that is helpful. So I wanted to just chat about that zoom selection tool. That tool can be pretty powerful. Okay. Couple things. I'm running out of time. I thought I would have trouble getting totally filled up, but of course that's not true. We're going to run just a couple of minutes late. The SmartyCam video. We all know the power of that and how strong that is. One of the things that I want you to know is a thing that we talk about a lot. That the measures graph is boss. We're zoomed fully out here for an entire lap, and this, when you're clicking on this, it's jumping, I'm dragging the cursor along, this is jumping ahead many frames at one time, right? uh, this is all driven together, so if I were to double click or zoom in, we very much more granular on the video, and some people will fight trying to get that to go back and forth. And by zooming in on your measures graph, it makes seeing this exact apex curb and where you're at a little bit easier to see by coming in, and the rotation of the car and all the different things that you might want to see out of your video, much easier when you zoom in. So I just wanted to talk about that SmartyCam video and being able to zoom in like that. The another one that people don't use all that often, but very powerful, is these little three icons right up here in the SmartyCam video. The first one is the little pair of scissors. If I zoom, if something happened and I wanted to have this half of the track, that this little run right here, if I click on this little pair of scissors here, it will make a snip. It will cut and create a small little piece of video of whatever I'm zoomed in the measures graph with the attached video. Again, measures graph is boss. If I want the full lap, I could come in and zoom out to just this lap. And if I clip on that, you're going to get one lap of video. If I have an incident that happened and you need to share 20 seconds of video to show what happened, find that 20 seconds of video leading up to it, and then 5 seconds afterwards, zoom in on that, and now we've got this chunk of data right here. And if I clipped on that, you're going to get that short little video. Very good to be able to put a video on a USB drive and give it to a driver coach, or a driver coach can give that to the client, give it to the officials for some sort of an incident review. Very powerful tool. Maybe you want to have just a quick snapshot. Clicking on this button takes a snapshot of that video and puts it into a video file. A still image file. That's very cool. And then this button here, same thing as we had before. You can click on that and it opens up that video right from where you were at and starts playing it in an external player, full size that maybe some people may want. So that is those three icons, very, very powerful. And a lot of people are not using those or don't even know that those are there. So wanted to talk about that real quickly. The track map. I'm going to rush through some of these a little bit here towards the end, but the track map, there's a bunch of tools that are across the top here. Um, you get in here sometimes and you find that they don't match up very well. You've got a stack of different imagery that you can see when you're connected to the internet, and you can come in here and select some different providers of these layers of imagery in the background. So you can come in here. A lot of people, Google is by far is typically in here in North America at least is the most up to date typically. So we have made that as our default. But one thing that some people get a little bit frustrated with is for whatever reason, the program folks, we cannot turn off some of these tags that are showing right as of yet. I think they're working on it. But or if the Google imagery just doesn't fit very well, go grab another one and try it. I roll through these sometimes to find, especially tracks that are way out and away and haven't been updated a long time. You can come in here and here in Bing and some of these other ones do not have as many little notes, so you can pick some different things and maybe it works better for you. So keep in mind that there are tiles there. The other one that happens that if you're really zooming in and you want to see a couple of different driving lines, sometimes turning off the imagery will help you see those little driven lines a little bit better without the noise of the image behind the scene there. So sometimes just turning off the imagery might might be helpful to some folks. And I use this button a ton. It zooms into the area that you're zoomed into on your measures graph, and it does a best fit. So use that little zoom to fit icon. Click to center map. That is a very, very powerful tool. The Another one that you'll see in here sometimes, you see that there's, when I zoom in a lot, I get this question. I've probably had this question 20 times over the last couple of years. There's a little gray line in there, and people are questioning, what is that little line? Is that my average driven line? Is that my best lap shadowing for me? What that really is if you right click in here, there's what we call an aim track line, and it's the lap that we use to build the track map in the track map database. It is the lap that was used, and it is where some of the internal math and some of the things are going on. So a lot of people want to hide that. So a tip there is to come in and click on the hide aim track line, and you'll notice that now that little gray line is gone. If that's been bugging you, that's how you get rid of that. And it's saved in your user profile. So I will suggest that as another top tip is whenever you make any changes, just get in the habit of coming in and saving that profile real quickly as you make these little changes. These user profiles are ever evolving, right? You make little adjustments every time you use Ray Studio 3. You tweak something, you resize something, and you end up with some pretty little changes you want to continue to save. So track splits. There has been a change in how we do this. I'm going to jump back out to the full length. You used to, for a while, we could just come up here and right click and begin to work them. They've added a lock and unlock, so you didn't accidentally change these. So you have to right click and then unlock the split management. And then you can come in and you have a bunch of different tools to do. You can rename the split. I tend to follow a process of where I name the corners, either with a name or corner 6, T6, and then I will name the straights with an S, and then typically the corner before and the corner after, so I know which straightaway is, unless it's got a name. Lime Rock, it's the no name straight, right? So I'll give it a name. So you can name them there. Part of the reporting function that's happening soon, and it's already being used in some way, is you'll almost always have a piece of straightaway leading to the start finish line crossing, and you'll have a piece of straightaway after the start finish line before turn 1. Make both of those the straight. And one of the things that in the new, is that true? I did not know name was now Paul Newman. I did not know that. And then the if you'll notice that I named this one main, and I named this one, you can't see it because it's too large, but straight. And the upcoming reporting functions will actually put those two together, and it'll be called the main straight, and it'll give you information about your performance, lengths and all of that kind of stuff based on a segment called main straight, even though the start finish line is in between. So that's just a good habit to get into, main, and then the first part of it called straight. You'll find that that's going to help you in some of the reporting. Okay, and a couple more as we're getting ready to jump out. Adding a custom layout. I like a custom layout that I use all the time, and I've just called it Scratch. You call it test, call it whatever you wish, but there is all sorts of functions you can put into Ray Studio 3 to have different channels down here below and different channels here, and hiding this and doing that. And sometimes I've got these other ones set up, and sometimes I just want to get in and I'm just searching and doing things inside of Ray Studio. I just want to throw the brake pressure up on there, and just to see something, and I want to get rid of it, and get rid of those channels real quickly. Uh, it is just an area that I can go in and just throw stuff at it just to test some theories, to do some different things. I have one that's just for that, and I just basically start with speed and RPM and whatever views I might want, and it's just a great place to go in and try things, so you don't maybe change up some of the other ones that you have that are already built. And the way that you do that is an icon that's right here. You click on that, and you can add a custom layout. And when you first do that, I'm going to call this one Roger. And when you add that, it's kind of a blank. Oops, I have already built one, so let's call it Roger 2. It is a blank sheet, and you can come in, and what you really need to do is resize everything, get everything where you want it. You can right click, and you can either change, you can add a panel to the right or the left. One tool that a lot of people don't know is I can change this entire panel without deleting it and bringing on another one. If you right click, and you can choose the panel that you want this one to be, even though right now it's a time distance plot, I can change it straight to a scatter plot, right? And select it, a channel report, whatever it happens to be, and boom, that entire panel has been changed. So you that's how you custom build, some of the ones you want. Maybe you wanted to add another panel to the right, which is a track map, right? So put these in there, start to set things up, and but that's how you build a tab for you to have, that maybe has the exact same thing as some of the canned views, but has another time distance that you may want to call braking. I built one here. It was to finish this one up. I built one here that was braking. I did a custom one. I set it up kind of like the time distance one, and it has my speed, it has my front and rear brakes, and my brake percentages, my brake bias, it is on there. So you can see exactly what the brake bias is. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to talk about on is on these bars along the left, is one of the things, especially if you resize like I do, the the speed trace is quite a bit bigger, because maybe that's what I'm focusing on. Was I faster or slower? The the and some of them I leave a little bit smaller because I just want to see what the value is, and I want to see the trace. But if you have the names turned on over here in the Y axis, it covers up smaller areas. You can't see what the numbers are. Yeah, you can see the number in the channel tag, what the value was. But one of the things that I have found that I am doing is I right click and I go to settings. And if you come down here a little ways, you've got this, do you want to choose if you want to have the labels on the x-axis and labels on the y-axis? On the y-axis, it's putting the channel name here. You've got it right here, so it's pretty easy not to have it there. And I really want my scaling there. So on the y-axis, I'm going to hide those labels. And on the x-axis, all it really is whether it's distance or time. And I can see with my eye that that's a distance type of a measurement versus a time. So I tend to hide the labels on both the y-axis and the x-axis. We'll see what that looks like. And now you can see that you don't have a channel name covering up your scaling value. And I find that to be a lot easier to be able to glance at this and have a good view of that. So turning off those channel names is I think a powerful thing. And one last thing is I am getting ready as we're going to close this down. I went way longer than I thought I would. As I wanted to talk, one of the other big questions I get a lot, and we've talked about math channels, and we have entire webinars about it, and about them, a couple of them, and we're planning on another one as there's some being adjustments into that whole function a little bit. But one of the things I get a lot is people open up a math channel, they create it, they do all the work, and they get it working, and then I'll get a call or an email and it's not showing up. And there's one last step that is substantially different than what we had in Race Studio 2 that I just wanted to chat about. And it's these little icons right here. It's a star, an orange or yellow star, and then this is it's the same star, but it's hollow. There's nothing in the inside. And what one of these means, the full complete star, means that you're applying that math channel to every data file you open. We did it slightly different in Race Studio 2. And then the one that is the hollow or the empty star is you're assigning that math channel, but you're only assigning it to this sessions. And if we come in here and we open up the little cogged wheel, you can see that this one has been enabled, this channel M corner rad. I take my math channels, I have a prefix of an M, so they sort and I can find them easier, and I know it's a math channel. So it's one of the little things that I do for the most part is I have a prefix of M for math channels. I can enable it for all sessions. It is right now already enabled, but I could switch off for this particular data logger, this particular car. And this has become very helpful to me. I'm going to switch it off so you see that there's no icon on it. That math channel is not going to be applied to anything. So if I click on here, you can right click as well. Do I want to enable it for all sessions or just for the car that I have that I'm working on? I had a great example just the other day where I had a team of 4 different cars, a team that had 4 different cars. And we can do some things with channels and other things, but they had used 2 different engine RPM naming conventions, right? And they had some math channels that were using that, and they wanted to use the same math channel across. So what I ended up doing, I came in and I built I taught them how to build a math channel that just took the name that one guy had that was RPM was named differently, built a math channel just to change that into the name that they wanted, so it fit their single math channel for acceleration and calculated horsepower, and then I assigned that math channel to always be active for that car every time we got data. So from then on, even though it came in as ECU RPM, the math channel and all of his other buddies had engine RPM as the channel name, and we just built a math channel that always, for that particular logger, always created a channel called ECU RPM, right? So and I only had to do it once, and then every time we brought in the data, there was automatically that channel was there. So the ability to establish math channels for all sessions or just for individual cars is very powerful. And what a lot of people happen, and they get done building their math channel, they get to this step and they built corner rad, and they exit out and they go to look in their data and it's nowhere in there. The last step is coming here and assigning it to either all sessions or the car. So make sure that you do this last step. It's the one step that a number of people forget with the math channels. And then finally, to kind of close out math channels and end the webinar is when you open, I'm just going to open this one up so we can see it. Come on, maybe. Oops, that made a big noise in my ear. We have this new grouping function, and you can just build a new one by putting a new name in there or grabbing one of the names that are already that you already have them set up as. And that grouping function is very powerful. And I'm going to show you why in if I cancel out of this. And let's say we want to export or send the math channels to a different computer or to your buddy or whatever it happens to be. If we highlight one of these and we go to export the math channel, this little this dialog box, I can just export just this selected channel. I can just do an export channel of all of the math channels that I have, or just by certain groups. That's why these groupings of math channels is important. So keep that in mind if as you're doing math channels, group them. And then you have the ability to import and export either individual math channels or our entire groups or all of them. So keep that in mind as you're working with your math channels, that you have the ability to do that. So that's important. Okay. I've been watching the question and answer, and there were some questions that popped up, and they were answered. So I don't have any that are built right now, but I have hit the end of my list, a little bit long, but I did get to the end of my list. I hope some of those helped you. I think of course, there's many more. These were just the top tips of the top 20 that I found that I get questions on a lot, or I thought would really help a lot of folks that were using Race Studio 3. Emiliano and I have been working on beta versions with Matt's help and several other people from around the AIM global world. And there are some pretty cool things that are coming. So keep watching your production updates, especially in the way of reporting and some other things that I think you're gonna enjoy. Let me minimize this down and let's jump back into the webinar, and let's talk about where these videos are. All of the videos, including this one, in the next hour or two, will be up on our AIM Sports Learn Fast YouTube site. It'll be joining a whole bunch of other ones. Currently 225 videos up there, and some of the things we talked about today were hinted about functions. Most of those functions have videos already built about them. So go check out a little bit deeper. Drop me an email at the contact information I'm going to show here in just a moment. The customer support. Boy, we just got off of a big Memorial Day weekend here, here in North America, and the racing all over the place. And I know most of our techs were out there running like crazy. Customer support is a big piece of what we do. We like to say that we're really a support company that happens to sell racing electronics, and the staff is out there all the time, and we're also available with a phone call. So give us a buzz if you have any problems, and let us help you get the most out of your investment of your AIM products. Always happy to help. We got a great staff of folks that are here to help you. So give us a call. The next webinar will be at the end of last Tuesday of every month. I've got 2 or 3 things that we're already chatting about, but I don't want to announce them quite yet. But Tuesday, June 27th at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, we're going to do another one of these, and I'll try to plan it a little bit better so we're not a little bit long. But contact information for today's webinar. If you have any questions about what we chatted about today, my email address there at the bottom, roger@aimsports.com. Drop me a note. I'm more than happy to go over some of the things that we chatted about. So I appreciate everybody coming. I hope you got something out of this. This one was a fun one to prepare for, and always good to have little things. I hope every one of you got, even the heavy users, the power users, found a few things that you did not know. Is what I hope was our goal, to help the folks that are just getting started with lots of tips, or even the folks that are using it all the time. I appreciate everybody coming. Thanks to the guys in that are behind the scenes here that were answering some questions and helping keeping everything going. I appreciate your help very much. Thanks everybody for coming, and looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Talk to you guys soon.